Finale, Purgatory. The Seinfeld finale's controversial ending might not have been what it seemed. According to one dark theory, the gang never survived the plane crash at all. In 2019, Reddit user bFitzysick posted a theory suggesting the plane actually crashed. The opening scene shows Kramer tripping into the cockpit, causing a nosedive that lasts over 1 minute. The theory argues that an experienced pilot should fix this problem in seconds, especially in a smaller private jet, making the sudden righting of the plane seem unrealistic. More suspicious details follow. No one gets actual jail time in the United States for simply laughing at a mugging, even if it violates Good Samaritan laws. The 1-year sentence for this crime is absurd, suggesting cosmic punishment rather than legal reality. Elaine sharing a holding cell with men is unusual in American jails, and only makes sense if they've been removed from normal society entirely. The trial format itself mirrors religious concepts of afterlife judgment, with the gang answering for all their misdeeds over the years. The theory suggests they're in purgatory, a temporary state they can eventually escape, which explains the 1-year time frame. This premise was later used in NBC's The Good Place in 2017. The theory transforms the divisive finale from a simple bad people get punished ending into something far more existential and dark. It suggests Larry David created a metaphysical judgment where the gang faces eternal consequences for their selfish behavior throughout 9 seasons. The theory gained traction because it explains several illogical elements by removing the events from physical reality entirely. George's brother. George Costanza mentions having a brother in only 2 episodes, and a dark theory suggests that brother took his own life because of George. George's brother is mentioned only in Season 3 episodes The Suicide and The Parking Space. The episode is titled The Suicide, but no such act actually occurs in the episode. Jerry's neighbor only attempts to end his life. A psychic warns George of impending tragedy involving a woman named Pauline. George recalls his brother once impregnated a woman named Pauline. According to the theory, George calls his brother to ask about Pauline, inadvertently triggering his brother's depression. In the next episode, The Fix-Up, George appears depressed at the opening. He behaves uncharacteristically selfless when he thinks he impregnated a woman from a one-night stand, saying he'll support the baby, which is extremely out of character for George. Frank and Estelle show increasing resentment toward George throughout the series, and an empty seat is always visible at the Costanza kitchen table. In The Parking Space, George mentions his brother refusing to pay for parking and seems proud of this detail. The show's no hugging, no learning rule prevented any explicit storyline about tragedy. The brother is never mentioned again after Season 3. This theory adds tragic depth to George's character and explains his parents' extreme hostility toward him. The rule meant Seinfeld couldn't do explicit emotional storylines, so major life events happened off-screen. George, carrying guilt over his brother's death while being unable to process or discuss it, fits perfectly with his neurotic, repressed personality, and explains why he showed such uncharacteristic responsibility when facing potential fatherhood. Kramer drug dealer. How does Kramer afford a Manhattan apartment with no visible job? One popular theory suggests he's been selling marijuana the entire series. Kramer constantly raids Jerry's fridge, exhibiting the munchies. He has a pipe visible in his apartment, but is never shown smoking tobacco. He uses it for his Dr. Van Nostrand persona. He knows many shady people and characters in questionable businesses, like Slippery Pete the electrician. One episode shows Kramer creating a smoking club for men discriminated against for smoking. When participating in a drug sting in another episode, he does an intentionally terrible job. The theory suggests he did this on purpose to avoid outing himself as an actual drug dealer. His erratic sleep schedule and strange hours fit a dealer lifestyle. Newman is possibly his supplier, or money guy handling finances. Kramer has no visible source of income for most of the series, and his various odd schemes could be money laundering. This theory provides a logical explanation for Seinfeld's biggest mystery, Kramer's unexplained income. In 1990s New York City, maintaining an apartment without employment would be nearly impossible. The theory gained popularity because it connects dozens of small details throughout the series into one cohesive explanation that was too taboo to show explicitly on network television. Newman's jealousy. Newman hates Jerry with burning passion, but the show never explains why, until you realize it's all about Kramer. Jerry and Newman's feud is a running joke but never explained. The theory suggests Newman is jealous because Kramer is Jerry's best friend instead of his. Kramer has a framed photo of himself and Jerry on his nightstand. Jerry in apartment 5A and Kramer in apartment 5B live directly across from each other. Newman is stuck down the hall in apartment 5E or 5F, though continuity is inconsistent. Jerry is home frequently since he has no regular day job, so he has more time with Kramer. Newman relies on Kramer for emotional support. The theory suggests Newman once asked Jerry to swap apartments to be closer to Kramer, and Jerry refused. Newman appears depressed, and even expresses feelings related to hurting himself in several episodes. This theory transforms Newman from a random antagonist into a tragic figure whose hatred stems from loneliness and rejection. Newman sees Jerry living the life he wants, right across from Kramer, spending easy days together. Newman's postal job keeps him away during the day, while Jerry and Kramer bond. Jerry's constant touring. Ever notice how Jerry's friends are always catching up with each other at his apartment? A fan theory explains they're not just making conversation. Jerry's been gone for weeks. Episodes constantly feature exposition dumps as characters update each other on their lives. The theory suggests Jerry is frequently away on comedy tours, which explains why the group always needs to catch up on recent events, and why their lives change so dramatically between episodes. Jerry explicitly hates pop-ins, yet he tolerates when George, Elaine, and Kramer do it. In the letter, Jerry says Elaine likes the pop-in, and he's told her how he hates the pop-in. The theory argues Jerry tolerates it because he's often away, so visits become special when he's home. Jerry has no regular day job requiring daily attendance. Stand-up comedy careers require touring different cities, and friends wouldn't know Jerry's schedule since he's self-employed. This theory solves one of sitcoms' common problems. Why don't characters just call before coming over? Because in the pre-cell phone era, Jerry's schedule is unpredictable. It also explains why every episode feels like major life events happened since last time. Weeks or months actually passed. Susan faked death. Susan Ross died licking toxic wedding invitation envelopes. But what if she didn't die at all? Susan dies in season 7 finale, The Invitations, from toxic glue on cheap envelopes George selected. George's reaction is relief rather than grief. The real reason was that actress Heidi Swedberg's comedic timing didn't mesh with the cast, as Jason Alexander confirmed. Julia Louis-Dreyfus joked to Larry David, "Don't you just want to kill her?" The fan theory suggests Susan faked her death to escape George. The theory proposes she enlisted her parents to stage the death and moved to the West Coast. A foundation was created in her memory to torture George and protect the fortune from him. An alternative version suggests Susan fooled her parents too and left with a female partner. George's storyline in The Smelly Car established that Susan had experimented with women. Her parents are extremely wealthy and capable of elaborate deception. This theory provides a satisfying alternate explanation for Susan's abrupt exit, while giving her agency in escaping George rather than being a random victim. It makes sense given George's horrible treatment of her and her parents' wealth enabling an elaborate scheme. Kramer, the widower. How does Kramer have money without working? Beyond the drug dealer theory, fans suggest an even darker explanation. He's living off his late wife's inheritance. Kramer has no visible income for most of the series. A theory from TigerDroppings.com user NW Lynn's Tigers 9 suggests he's a widower living off inheritance from a deceased wife. This explains why he has money but doesn't work. He attempts to emulate a domestic dynamic with Jerry, sharing everything Jerry owns and constantly occupying Jerry's apartment, eating his food, using his belongings. His failed business ventures, like Kramerica, sausage manufacturing, and underwear modeling, occupy his lonely mind. The theory suggests these ventures are therapeutic distractions from grief. He never mentions past serious relationships or family. This theory adds a melancholy layer to Kramer's eccentric behavior. His schemes and Jerry dependence stem from loneliness and unprocessed grief. It explains both his money and his need to fill a void with constant projects and a pseudo-family relationship with Jerry. By the way, if you're enjoying this so far, I post videos like this regularly. I'd really appreciate a subscribe. Marine Biologist Miracle. In The Marine Biologist, coincidence saves George's lie, but was it too convenient to be random chance? The Marine Biologist, Season 5, Episode 14, shows Jerry telling old classmate Diane that George is a marine biologist. George complains he's only comfortable with his own lies, not Jerry's. On a beach date with Diane, they encounter a beached whale needing help. The crowd needs a marine biologist, and everyone rallies around George. George reaches into the whale's blowhole and pulls out an obstruction. The obstruction is a golf ball. Kramer was golfing on the beach earlier. The theory argues this coincidence is too perfect to be random. Kramer's ball specifically ends up in the whale George specifically encounters at the exact moment George is pretending to be a marine biologist. Some fans suggest cosmic intervention, rewarding George's bravery. Others see it as the universe's cruel joke, making George succeed through accident. The famous monologue, "The sea was angry that day, my friends," was written last minute by Larry David and Jerry Seinfeld. Jason Alexander memorized it and performed perfectly on the first take. This theory questions whether Seinfeld's universe allows true randomness, or if George's rare moment of heroism was cosmically arranged. The golf ball appearing in that specific whale at that specific moment when George needs to prove himself stretches believability, which makes fans wonder if it's the universe testing George or rewarding his willingness to help despite being terrified. Bania As Mirror. Kenny Bania is annoying, desperate, and unfunny, leading to a dark theory that he's exactly what Jerry fears becoming. Kenny Bania appears throughout the series as a struggling comedian who idolizes Jerry. A writer and comedian theory suggests Bania is Larry David's cruel parody of Jerry Seinfeld. Bania represents what Jerry looks like from the outside, a boyish, observational comedian who's tedious and not funny. Jerry sees Bania as a desperate, unfunny pariah who leeches off other comedians. The theory suggests other comedians see Jerry the same way. Both do similar material, observational comedy with Ovaltine and Bosco chocolate references. Both have similar appearance and energy, and similar career trajectories, moderately successful, but not respected. Jerry despises Bania, but won't even explain why. He won't get lunch with Bania unless it's transactional, like when he owes him a meal. Actor Steve Heitner said his audition described the character as the most annoying person in the world. Everyone played him nasty, but Heitner played him obliviously enthusiastic. "That's gold, Jerry! Gold!" became a famous catchphrase. This theory suggests Bania functions as Jerry's dark mirror, showing him what he might become if he's not careful. Jerry's visceral reaction to Bania stems from recognition of similarities. It makes Jerry's contempt more complex than simple annoyance. It's existential fear that he is Bania to more successful comedians, or that his career could slide into Bania territory. Puddy's secret intellect. David Puddy seems simple-minded, often sitting in complete silence, but what if he's actually a deep thinker? Puddy frequently sits in total silence for extended periods. The most notable example occurs in The Butter Shave, where he and Elaine sit silently on a plane. Puddy says, "Yeah, that's right," repeatedly with no emotion. A theory from Reddit suggests Puddy sits in silence because he's lost in deep contemplation, seeking solitude to process complex reflections. His simple responses like, "Yeah, that's right," and "high five," are efficient communication. His religious faith, introduced in The Burning, shows a philosophical side. He tells Elaine she's going to hell with complete calm. His face painting for Devil's Games shows commitment and planning. He successfully manages a Saab dealership, implying business acumen. The theory proposes Puddy has perfected the art of appearing simple to relate to people. This theory flips Puddy from comic relief into a Zen master who's found peace through simplicity. His silence isn't vacancy but contemplation. His repetitive phrases aren't stupidity but efficiency. It makes his relationship with neurotic, verbose Elaine even funnier. She's attracted to his calm, while frustrated by what she interprets as simple-mindedness. Elaine sabotages Jerry. Jerry and Elaine claim to be just friends, but fans noticed Elaine has a suspicious habit of ruining Jerry's relationships. Jerry and Elaine dated from 1986 to 1990, and remained friends after the breakup. In The Mango, it's revealed Elaine faked all orgasms with Jerry. The theory suggests Elaine secretly wants Jerry back and sabotages his relationships. The Deal episode shows them trying a friends with benefits arrangement. Elaine gets furious when Jerry gives her only $182 for her birthday. Her anger seems disproportionate if they're just friends. Multiple episodes show Elaine suggesting things that harm Jerry's relationships. She suggests a bed and breakfast trip, which becomes a relationship disaster. She supports Jerry's decision to break up with a girlfriend over a commercial. The theory suggests she sent the man-hands woman Jerry's way. Elaine is often critical of Jerry's girlfriends for petty reasons, and gets unusually invested in his dating life. This theory adds a layer of unresolved tension to the Jerry-Elaine friendship. If Elaine subconsciously or consciously undermines his relationships, it explains her seemingly excessive interest in his love life, and why she gets inappropriately angry about just friends situations. It makes their dynamic more complex than simple post-breakup friendship. There's lingering possessiveness despite claiming to be over each other. Jerry manipulates friends. Jerry seems like a neutral observer of his friends' chaos, but some fans think he's secretly orchestrating their disasters. Jerry rarely faces consequences while his friends suffer constantly. Kramer calls Jerry even Steven, meaning everything balances out for him. In the opposite, Elaine tests this by throwing $20 out a window. Jerry immediately finds $20 in his pocket. Jerry often suggests ideas that get his friends in trouble. He suggests George use the leave on high note strategy, which backfires. He encourages George to confront people, leading to disasters. A Reddit theory proposes Jerry creates precarious situations because he enjoys watching people suffer and finds their misery hilarious, providing comedy material. Jerry's apartment is the stage where he watches his friends' lives implode. He rarely leaves the apartment. Friends come to him. The theory suggests Jerry subtly manipulates situations, then observes the results. His advice consistently makes things worse. This dark theory transforms Jerry from passive observer into puppet master who feeds on friends' suffering. His comedian brain needs material and conflict, so he subtly engineers it. It makes sense why he tolerates their constant presence, despite claiming to hate it. They're his content. It explains his immunity to consequences while they face constant punishment. Bizarro World. Real. The Bizarro Jerry episode shows Elaine meeting opposite versions of Jerry, George, and Kramer. But what if they aren't opposites at all? The Bizarro Jerry, Season 8, Episode 3, features Elaine meeting Kevin, Bizarro Jerry, Gene, Bizarro George, and Feldman, Bizarro Kramer. They're portrayed as opposite, polite, considerate, and supportive. The theory argues they aren't opposite, they're normal. Jerry's group is actually the bizarre aberration. Kevin's group represents how functional adults behave. They say hello to neighbors, knock before entering, and read books. Elaine calls them Bizarro, but they're just well-adjusted. Elaine can't fit in because she's been corrupted by Jerry's group. The episode reveals Jerry's gang as the real weirdos. The theory suggests the entire series shows dysfunctional people thinking they're normal. The Bizarro episode holds up a mirror showing their dysfunction. This theory flips the episode's premise, suggesting Kevin's group isn't bizarro at all. They're how humans should behave. Jerry's gang is so warped they perceive normalcy as weird. Elaine tries to join functional friends but can't because Jerry's influence has made her too dysfunctional. The episode becomes commentary on how toxic friendships warp your perception. If you found this interesting, consider subscribing so you catch all future uploads. Thanks for watching.